Chester County, Pennsylvania, 1777. You can feel a river. You can lie awake at night and trace it in your mind. Born out of the Welsh Hills, it branches east and west through the 45-mile-long, 30-mile-wide stretch of wilderness known as Chester County. The river, named by the early Dutch settlers after an amber Dutch wine and handed to us through the generations as the Brandywine Creek, halves Chester County. Chester County is a hand's breadth upon a map of southeastern Pennsylvania, portioned by the natural farmer's eye of William Penn in the year 1682. A generation of Quakers came in his wake, people close to the land, careful in their trading, with names like Linton and Larkin and Bartram and Knox, men who carved carefully whittled sticks of farms. We had to subdue a wilderness to our ways. We did it on the farms, built a barn on a piece of land to shelter the stock, and then built a house, maybe out of rocks dug out of the field. Tamed an acre, and then another. Cut down the trees, rutted the stumps, and put in a stand of corn. The men grew old with gnarled hands and sat at oilcloth tables of a Saturday night, looking out, and handed it to their sons, and the sons through the years assumed their fathers' faces, and in turn they, the sons, owned the land, the houses, the tables, and the perpetuation of the wives. And the women. The women were little girls grown old, who played at things, worshipped spoons and wooden bowls and heavy benches and pewter pots, a clutter of living, a thing of reverence passed down, touched by hands, mother to daughter in some feminine bond. And it was theirs, the daughters and the sons. The houses moved static through these generations like old gravestones worn slightly awry. Testaments, so to speak, to the imperfect men who laid stone upon stone in their imperfect way. And they, the houses, lean a little upon the landscape, settle to their foundations through the 100 winters. But again to the river, the Black Creek water going, seen through to the pebbled bed with scattered seed of lady lace sprinkled to the water's edge, and down white shreds of shadblow drifting, drowning on the current stream. And further in the woods, a deeper silence of a page turned of multitudinous leaves as the day moves imperceptibly from greensward to brass, to bronze, to finally an evening exhalation of amber still. And yet a river is many things. Small boys built flutter wheels along its banks and grew into a generation of merchants who constructed mills along the river's course. Huge wheels of oak dipped there in the mill races and crushed and ground the corn and wheat and barley of the farms. The huge Penn Oaks at Dilworth Town in London Grove survived the days of William Penn. Husks of fieldstone houses dot the landscape of Chester County. Many have died with their time and purpose, but a few have been preserved. Waynesboro, birthplace of Mad Anthony Wayne. The 1704 house of William Brinton. Quaker meeting houses at Willistown and Birmingham, Octagonal schools followed and captured the light through the hours of a day. The old Quaker was even frugal with his son. Valley Forge. It remains today as a shrine to the winter of 1777-78. After the British victory at Brandywine Creek, the King's Army took up comfortable winter quarters in Philadelphia. Washington retreated with his rebel army to Valley Forge. With horse blankets for uniforms and with their feet swathed in rags, they sat sullen and stubborn through the frozen winter. The army disbanded, and in twos and threes they returned to farms and crossroad villages. They put the memories and the squirrel rifles in the corner and set about the fact of their personal lives. Together they forged what was the beginning of a nation. A mark of independence is that only when it is achieved does a man, an idea, or a society become truly unique. It is a delicate marriage of a need and its solution. We think of the covered bridge. The logic of the roof is lost, perhaps to make it stronger, perhaps a mere byproduct of a generation of barn builders, or perhaps the mere beginnings of an aesthetic. The country was changing. After the war came a more sophisticated need, a need for iron, the stuff of the earth for nails and plows and bullets, and rims for wheels. Young men had a nose for this wind of change, and they built forges out of the river. The names emerged out of the iron: Coventry Forge, Reading Forge. The houses of the iron master marked a transition from the agrarian to a Yankee industrial society. Villages grew around the forges and listened to a different drummer. It was no longer wheat, it was iron. Iron country, that's what they called it. If you go up toward the northwest corner of Chester County, that's what you find. Warwick, Elverson, Coventry, French Creek, Reading, and Hopewell.
Well, have a good day, huh?
Fox country and riding to the hounds. There's a knife in these words. You hear the sound of it waft across the country like a flight of wild geese. The lifting, wild, sharp braying of the hounds, the horsemen in pursuit, brilliant rags of color against the tawn of fields and smoky woods. It's a thing of rail fences, leather, and dogs, of pageantry, tradition, and form. But once it was a time of Indians, a wilderness that ran from the Welsh Hills to the Alleghenies. No one conceived of boundaries, and the Lenapes and the Delawares sold the use of the land to the white man for trinkets, having no sense of what private property meant. They were never 2 days in one place and had left the wilderness unscarred for generations. A generation was born and died. Everything was left of a piece. The wild geese came. drifted upon the lakes and keened north in the fall. It was a land of wolves and fox and beehives in the woods, of deer in the moist, dark places, and a wildcat upon a hill. Fish ran the waters down, and savages understood this thing and rummaged the bank of the river. They took enough to make their own, and nothing more. The King Ranch is over 10,000 acres of the Old West transplanted in Chester County. Select Santa Gertrudis cattle range the rich grasslands southeast of Coatesville. Genuine cowboys work the cattle in the traditions of the southwestern frontier. The ranch is an eastern extension of the famed King Ranch of Texas and adds a unique, if incongruent, touch to the romance of Chester County. Horses are the principal livestock of Chester County. In addition to being raised for fox hunting, they are raised for racing and for show. Cross-country runs, known as timber races or point-to-points, are held annually throughout the county. The most significant of these is the Pennsylvania Hunt Cup race held near Unionville in November each year. Of the many horse shows throughout Chester County, Devon is the most important. It's the first scheduled show of the season and is the largest outdoor show in the United States. People come from all over the country to perform and be judged in hundreds of classes ranging from jumping to carriaging. With the variety of shops and the carnival, it retains the atmosphere of a country fair. And along with the serious business of horses, there's fun for everybody.
With a backhander, with a field on his stop by Clark going off the Brandywine. Catch a pair with a backhander from Mallet Hill.
Oh, come on, boy.
Very closely contested match. Approximately 1/4 of a minute remaining in the second chukker. Shapiro driving the relay downfield from Mallet Hill on a backhander by Sologlamer.
Take the man! Back, Marley, go back to the man!
By Don Little. By Davey Rizzo, bouncing ball under the net. Davey Rizzo. That's what you know. On your side, stop. On Little. Brings the line out. On the part of him. Drive by Weymouth toward goal line. Score.
Polo at Tough Kenneman is in mushroom country. Southwestern Chester County is one of the biggest suppliers of mushrooms in the world. From Kennett Square to Avondale, West Grove to Oxford, the long, low mushroom houses dot the countryside. Near West Grove, Star Rose Gardens grow thousands of roses commercially. The climate and rich soil nourish some of the most exquisite flowers in the country. Pierre DuPont, businessman and philanthropist, spent a lifetime creating the Longwood Gardens. The beautifully sculpted gardens and fountains are a living tribute to the man. Once his home, it is now open to the public. The majestic organ at Longwood, one of the largest in the world, performs recitals that range from Bach to such local composers as Anne Wyeth McCoy. Mrs. McCoy's composition, Portrait of N.C. Wyeth, speaks of a vision passed down to the Wyeth generations, who in turn have given national stature to the art heritage of Chester County. Chester County. The harvest done, it's time to sit back and look toward winter. Maybe take the tour of the old houses of the countryside on Chester County Day, held traditionally on the first Saturday of October. People pass informally through a selection of these houses, reliving for a day the quiet eloquence of tradition. There is individuality here of chair and cabinet makers, of blacksmiths and whitesmiths, of Chandley tall case clocks, Jennerville chairs, Tucker china, and the distinctive berry inlaid furniture of the Oxford Nottingham section. The schools of Chester County: Church Farm School for Boys in the agricultural tradition of Chester County, Lincoln University at Oxford, Immaculata overlooking the Great Valley, and Westchester State College. The town of Westchester is the county seat. The courthouse, the Chester County Historical Society. The David Townsend House, a fine example of one of the town's first buildings. The Phoenixville Iron Company in the town of Phoenixville. And other mill towns, Atglen and Parksburg and Pocopson, iron towns. At Downingtown it was paper, but paper or iron, they wore the same look. Industry changed the sleepy hamlets into another way of life. This is Coatesville, a town that grew up around the first rolling mill in America. The mill was established around 1793, and through the generations has grown into the huge complex, Lucan Steel. Beyond the facts, the place names, the structure of the county, there is a half-defined thing of the people. We might call it a spirit or a tradition or any of 100 other things. But it is an awareness of people for the land they live on. It can be seen in a river or even fleetingly in a little girl's face.